I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to have been asked to share in this consecration of the house. And I felt very honored when Bob Martin, some weeks ago, asked me to read a poem at this event. To ask a poet to read a poem is a bit of a challenge, that I had to go back and think of all the poems I've written, what would be appropriate. And it soon enough seemed that nothing would be appropriate for such a new thing except a new poem. So then I thought about, well, is this my opportunity for a Bruckner poem again, or a Mahler poem? And then I began to notice that everywhere I went, I saw this sign after Laszlo Bito's name, apostrophe 60, kept standing there. And I began to think about that. And I began to have a conversation with myself. And the conversation with myself ended up in a poem that I'll read to you now that seemed to have a great deal to do with him and 60 and this wonderful new integer in a program, the musical program here, that has brought such energy and cross-cultural relevance and sheer beauty to the college and to the region. So let me read this dedication. Music in the hall. People walk through the halls. People hear music. We go outside where the flowers are up to something. We remember what we have heard. We remember music. And sometimes we start to wonder, what does music remember? This building we hear music in bears a man's name and a year. Class of 1960. What does that mean in all the years, all the classes, so many schools, so many musics? In 1960, I came to this place for the first time to read poetry. 5 avant-garde New York writers in winter drove up in somebody's car a few weeks after John Kennedy was elected, and Paul Blackburn, that prince of poets, got out of the car on the Taconic and showed me Orion over us, something a city boy never sees, something above us, something to remember. December and the stars of 1960, young poets on their way to Albee Basement by a big fireplace, reading hard to the impassive faces of the even younger who listened with nothing on their faces. Did they have nothing to remember? We wondered, and we wonder still, how can words mean anything at all? Maybe they heard some music in the words, such music as our sad arrogance had tried to bring them. Word music, song of sentences. Who knows now what we were saying? No matter. The matter was the music. They heard the deep song the words are always trying to remember. Months before, the young men from Hungary had gone, that class of 1960, exiles who took refuge here in Annandale, exiles who still remember where they were sheltered, filtered into America, safe for a time from the dreadful 1956 Soviet tanks rumbling into Budapest, then murders, prison camps, silencing of language. And for those kids walking through our woods, memory was their wound, a wound only cured by remembering. Words and music, that's what it means. Music in the halls, Bartók in America. Bartók Béla, they said in Hungary. Name comes first, because we are always trying to remember where we come from. Where does music come from? They came from tyranny and oppression. We come from what our parents tell us, the people make us. Bartók was poor in America, the nervous, crowded time during the war. His son became an engineer, made records on the Bartók label, red translucent vinyl to make his father's music known. I have one home, a suite from Mikrokosmos, the little world that holds the great world in its heart. Century of recording, technology, of remembering what we heard. Last night, we download this morning, Age of Benjamin's mechanical reproduction, music itself, lost in remembering, music lost in itself, as if we hear nothing more than the shadow of sound? No, we hear music. We hear it trying to remember in us what it knows. Music always knows. Bartók knew, dragged his weighty recording device, itself a modern marvel in its day, all through the hills and vast plains of Hungary, recording all the folk music he could find, the 10,000 songs the folk remember. We remember ourselves in music. He heard them for us into his great quartets, the dances for the hand, the ear, the clangorous piano, until a little while, 1951, the Juilliard Quartet plays for the first time all 6 quartets consecutively on 2 days. I sat there. I remember still the sunlight breaking in the great fifth. For the first time, we thought we knew everything again. Those boys who escaped from Hungary, from work camps and prisons, found something they needed in Annandale that guided and helped. They remember, they feel gratitude, rarest of emotions. They give back. One of them gives us this house we're listening to, a house I'm bothering with words that soon will die into music. What did they find in Annandale? Maybe just people who listened, asked, answered, the way music speaks and must always be answered, in us. We can't help it. Our physiology is always responding. We can't help it. We can't stop hearing. Our bodies make us listen, blood and nerve, and deep inside our hearing, we begin to know what music remembers. Thank you, Beatles.